So, welcome viewers. We are just continuing the discussion with Mr. Biswajit Chakrabarty, Regional Director of FICCI in Guwahati. Mr. Chakrabarty has reached professional experience of working with Indian business and corporate sector nationally before he moved to his hometown in Guwahati. We have already discussed the impact of COVID on northeastern economy in detail. Now we will move to the next part as what should be the way forward for this region. Yes,
Right.
over to you, Mr. Chakrabarty.
Yes, Mr. Bose, the COVID situation, it is a big challenge, no doubt. But it has also brought about some changes which are going to stay with us for a long, long time to come. Uh, the world as we know it is not going to exist after COVID. It's going to change. For example, in tourism, the trend so far has been to have big hotels, big resorts, so on and so forth. Uh, the tourism experts feel that post-COVID, probably there will be a tendency of tourists to not go to crowded places. Rather, they might prefer less crowded places. And here, the Northeast might have an advantage in the sense that many of the destinations here are not really crowded. We do not have very big hotels and resorts
If I
apart
could
from,
interrupt, sir,
yes,
the problem with Indian tourism sector at large is
yes,
it is unbridled. There is no regulation practically, like in a place, in a particular geography, how many
mhm,
hotels, what is the load factor, and how many hotels should
yes,
come up, which way.
yes,
So there
yes,
is no such regulation. It is unbridled competition. That
yes,
if we go by the figures of say Shillong, the
yeah,
in 10 years probably its tourist inflow. I am just talking from memory. Its tourist inflow has gone up by 10 times. So
yes.
whether this is sustainable for Shillong, there has
Yes,
already.
I'm coming to that. You see, in the northeast, generally, if you look at Arunachal, Nagaland, parts of Meghalaya, these are rather secluded places where you do not have too many big hotels, etc. But as you said, in the rush to get more tourists, Meghalaya, for example, has attracted more tourists, particularly the Shillong Cherrapunji circuit has attracted more tourists than it can handle, than it can take, uh, which is not a very good sign. So there is an ongoing debate, even before COVID, there was an ongoing debate in the Northeast whether we should go for mass tourism or we should go for class tourism, whether we go the Bhutan way or we go the Puri or some other place. Uh, So I think consensus is slowly building in the Northeast also. The governments are also realizing that there has to be some amount of regulation. And we have to focus more on high value, lower numbers of tourists. So that is on the policy front, that is what is happening. But one distinct advantage which the Northeast will have to start with is that it is not so crowded. Now, how well the region is able to market that?
I would like to point it out here for the viewers that Northeast is 8% of India's landmass for less than 4% of its people of
Yes,
national population. I believe it's around 3.6%. So
correct.
how does it relate? Just to give another example, in West Bengal, the neighboring state, the landmass is around 2.7% of national, and the population is above 7%. Same with Bihar. So the density is much lower, and roughly 40% of Northeast is covered by forest. Please go ahead.
Right, right, right. So, for example, during the 2 months when the lockdown was lifted, January, February, as I mentioned, some resorts, small resorts in Arunachal, attracted very high net worth individuals, starting from Bollywood actors to leaders of captains of Indian industry. People flew down to Arunachal in their private jets and went to these small resorts. There are a couple of resorts in Arunachal which succeeded in that. That was because those people were not comfortable going to other more popular destinations, but they were comfortable coming here because these are not so well known and not too many people are frequenting those places. They felt safer coming. That is a distinct advantage we will have as far as tourism is concerned. And now it is up to the tourism entrepreneurs in the region, the governments, the tourism authorities to market this advantage and reap the benefits, because we will have a very small window once COVID is over or once COVID is controlled. We'll have a very small window to capitalize on.
Northeast has barely utilized its potential in tourism. I mean,
Yes,
people don't know Assam beyond the beyond Kaziranga, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
And but one important factor is the connectivity, right? So we have seen in the past with the introduction of Uran, the connectivity to Assam has improved substantially,
Mhm.
over the last couple of years. How about connectivity to Arunachal? The airport is under construction. When should it be over?
Yes,
And
yes.
how about the helicopter service? There was a helicopter service in Northeast, but it hasn't been very punctual or dependable, I believe.
Well, the helicopter service is there, and also a number of other things are happening. Like Arunachal Pradesh, Pasighat Airport has already opened. So they have flights going to Pasighat, which are smaller flights. You cannot take a Boeing there, but smaller 20-seater, 30-seater aircrafts can go there. Then I think Zero is going to open. In Arunachal itself, I think we're looking at least three to
Zero will be opening. It's a commercial
yes,
airport.
commercial airport.
Okay.
So I think on the airport front, on the connectivity front, a lot is happening. I think we can see a lot of positive change in the near future. And also, if you're looking at the high value tourism that I referred to, then limitations of connectivity do not matter so much in that case. If you're looking at mass tourism, you need trains, you need buses, you need
But at
etc.
least the road condition has to be very good.
Yes, yes, and that is improving. Particularly in Arunachal Pradesh, I think in the next 5 years we'll see a sea change. The amount of money being spent on roads is phenomenal in Arunachal. Nagaland is still lagging behind, but I think it will pick up. Uh, Tripura has already done a lot of work on roads. Meghalaya has done a lot of work on roads. Manipur, some areas there are problems now, but I think uh, they're on the way to.
Manipur and Nagaland, I believe, has to fight the perception. I mean, a lot
Yes,
to work
yes,
on that
yes,
front.
yes. Perception issue has to be fought. People have to realize that these states, irrespective of the
And
political
Mizoram,
turmoil,
despite having sustained peace, it is
yeah,
not. It hasn't shown much interest in harnessing its potential in tourism so far.
yes. Apart from a few entrepreneurs who have tried, Mizoram has not really shown a lot of interest in. I think that might change in the near future. But Mizoram, I think they have their focus quite clear. They have built quite a self-contained economy in Mizoram. Of course, they're dependent on for certain things on imports, but I think they have a different focus in does that in the discussion. There will be discussion.
Apart from tourism, which are the other sectors you think the Northeast
Uh,
should? If you just give us three, top.
See, agro-food processing goes without saying because that's the primary sector here. Then, of course, the traditional crafts and local crafts, etc. We need to focus on that. And another sector where we could focus in the Northeast is IT and IT. A good number of people from the Northeast who are working outside the region, they have shown a tendency to come back given the right opportunity. So that and we have a good English-speaking population in
Right.
uh, every state of the region has a good number of people who are fluent in English, etc. So I think IT, ITES, education, the neighboring countries, for example, Myanmar has a huge demand for English education. So that's another sector where the Northeast could focus. We have got good English medium institutions in the region. The numbers are not very high, but we have got good institutions. Healthcare is another sector, where the entire neighborhood has a huge demand for healthcare. People are going to
Over
get
the
high
last 10
salary.
years, we have seen Northeast becoming a huge supplier of nurses. Once
Yes,
upon, Kerala was always there, but now in Kolkata, I find nurses from Northeast, at nurses, and second is in hotels. Wherever you go in India, you will find girls and boys from Mizoram, Meghalaya, Manipur, etc.
right.
So these areas, do you think that there is more to do, or there is already enough institutions?
I think there is more to do here. We need more nursing institutions, more paramedical institutions, more medical colleges. Assam has done a lot of work in terms of establishing new medical colleges. It will take some time to stabilize, but the foundations. Uh, the other states also need to follow, and more medical colleges need to come up. More nursing institutes obviously are required, and
Manipur
there
is
is a
going to
potential
have
for
its
private
first
sector.
private medical college soon. Caesar
Yes,
Hospital
I
is
think
upgraded as a medical
yes,
college.
yes, yes.
So the last part, Mr. Chakraborty, about the skill.
Mm-hmm,
As a traditional economy, Northeast
mm-hmm,
doesn't have much exposure to the the new trend. I mean, I'm not saying being Northeast in particular, but even in East, entire East suffers from this problem of skill, right? The new age skills. So, but the problem is a bit, I think the problem is should be addressed, or it's an issue in Northeast because overall employment rate is pretty low when compared to rest of the country. So, how do you look
mm-hmm.
at this skill part, and which are the areas you think Northeast, should the skill development, and we have the Skill India mission. There is a new focus on skill. So, where they should focus on, particularly with respect to Northeast.
Mr. Bose, here my view is that as far as skilling is concerned, in the Northeast, it is very important to have a focused approach. It is very important to identify the areas in which the region has core competence, the areas in which there is likely to be demand, and then train people on those. uh, I would suggest a two-pronged strategy. Number one is upskilling for people who are already engaged in some trade, particularly in the traditional skills area, be it handloom handicrafts, be it farming, be it organic farming, whatever. I think there is a need for upskilling in those areas. That is one prong of the strategy that I would suggest. And this second strategy that I would suggest is that we have to identify the areas where there is likely to be a demand in the near future. There is no point, training people to become security guards and beauticians and all when we do not have enough demand in the region, and sending those people to work elsewhere in the country at low salaries, not contributing much either to their personal development or to their family's welfare or to the region's economy. I think it is very important that we identify those areas where the region has a if you talk about IT, for example, if we are going to have a IT ITES set up in the Northeast, if we are going to invest in that, we need to train people in. We need to train people in
For the
service.
sake of viewers, let me just explain here why we are saying specifically, categorizing Northeast. Number one is Northeast. Though it is not the right nomenclature, putting all of them in the same basket. But anyway, here for the sake of just explaining, it's not convenient for heavy industries. There are heavy industries, but I sincerely believe this place is not meant for heavy industries. Here, the manufacturing has to be of another scale, of another nature, like food processing, this kind of things, and that makes it also a huge scope for service sector. This That is why we are saying that we are drawing attention to the particular specific issues with regard to Northeast. Over to you, Mr. Chakraborty.
Right. I was talking about IT, ITES. Then you mention that the Northeast is not meant for heavy industries, to have a particular kind of industry. So one of the most uh, unique characteristic of the Northeast is that we have large areas that are still forested. And I think the biggest wealth of the region is the biodiversity that the region has. We cannot lose that at any cost. And
And
we
post
have,
COVID, such things should pick up. Wellness,
yes, yes, yes. So
sustainable.
those are the areas where we need to focus, where we can leverage the biodiversity, be it wellness or be it, traditional medicine, be it tourism. I think
Now
those
you
are the
have
areas.
the Ayush Minister in Guwahati.
Yes, yes, correct.
So, so to to sum up, I believe that what you are pointing at is that the skilling part, the those who are responsible should really take a critical look at the skill development part. The age-old mission of developing some, churning out some beauticians and etc. This is not going to work much because these are highly competitive. They are full of them. Northeast is very fashion conscious, so you have full of them, and it is very low value job. What we want should create is skills that will bring higher value, better earnings to the region. Am I right, Mr. Bhavati?
Absolutely. For example, if we have more people trained in giving Ayurvedic treatments based on traditional knowledges that is available in the region, that is a distinct value addition to tourism, and that will
There,
probably
there cannot be a better place than Northeast to do
yeah,
such things. You just be there. It's all about nature. Northeast is all about nature. Even if you live, when I used to stay in Guwahati, I used to walk up that hill for my morning walk. So the life
correct.
is completely different. You live with the nature. So there are such things like traditional medicine, clubbing it with tourism, traditional lifestyle. These things now, people go to Amish village in abroad. So why
Yes,
can't they go to a Naga village, stay there, live like them, fill their lifestyle, and come back? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Nagaland, Arunachal, unique cultures, and people who follow culture from Europe, the US, a good number of them used to actually come to the region just to experience the culture. And I think that is one area where we can do a lot. We can promote tourism a lot based on culture, nature, wellness, those aspects.
thank you so much. So it has been a nice talking to
Thank
you,
you.
and I think in the short span of time we covered quite a lot. I'm sure Mr. Chakraborty will come back and we will continue with this series.